Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Pill Nation Hangout number 373. As I suck down my coffee and massive numbers of technical issues tonight, I'm sending the applaud emoji up through Skype to demonstrate my happiness about said situation. V may be joining us. Actually, I would say he may be joining us much later. He might be joining us very soon because it's pushing. It took us half an hour to get worked out. I dumbly forgot my microphone back at my apartment. So if you're hearing an issue with the sound, it's because I'm having to use the microphone from the laptop that I'm using and not my regular microphone. With me tonight is my partner in crime. Rearson, introduce yourself.
Well, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I don't really care, whichever you identify with first. Fuck, I'm not even going there. That's fine. God. I am still with Naroki at this point. I forgot to mention this to you, my friend. My apologies for doing this during the podcast here, but I am probably looking at June, maybe as late as July, before I'm going to be vacating out of my current residence and without any additional emotional baggage, but we'll leave that alone for another time.
Well, strangely enough, I'm going to be doing pretty much the same thing. Maybe earlier than you, maybe later than you. We'll see.
Yeah, and the irony is I'm going further north and you're going to be pretty much south. No, you'll be... Oh, when the time comes, we'll all figure it out.
Anyway. Yeah, we'll figure it out. So,
back to you.
V, like I said, V might be joining us later. And what I mean later, as in maybe a few minutes now. Maybe I'll just give him a quick little ring here to see if he's ready, willing, and able. Hold on. Sorry, that was dinner coming up. For those of you who don't know, I'm just at Patreon as Naroki5. I am also at currently at YouTube, Brighteon, Odyssey, BitChute, and MGTOW TV, Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe, and Getter. I'm going to actually have to start posting up at those sites again. I haven't really had time to do much of anything lately. That's on me. That's not on Rearson. That's not on anybody else. It's like I said, the new job, I've got a very limited amount of time, and I have time to either post content or do spamming runs. And I'm leaning more towards the posting of content at this point. Maybe at some point in the future, I'll have time to do others. But so the topics for tonight, topic number 1, Henry Cavill is considering walking out of production deal with Games Workshop. 2, there is vested interest in keeping the Nashville Shooter Manifesto from going public. That one is very interesting. There's a lot of speculation on that one. 3, TikTok has officially been banned. 4, Poland allows nuclear missiles on its territory. Wow. 5 is the Manosphere Section. Topic number 1 is content producer Human is married. 2, a proper response to Lauren Southern's video about treatment of women on the right. And C, a man who donated sperm anonymously is now being forced to pay child support. Yikes. And then, of course, this one ties into topic number This one ties into all of the protests going on at universities right now. College protesters fucked around and found out. Ilhan Omar's daughter exposed for lying about chemical weapons. Yeah, that one was actually kind of funny. So, without any further ado, unless V decides to make an appearance, we will just get right into the show. Don't have any witticisms. Don't have any space aliens or gimp suits for Rusin tonight. The space aliens took all the gimp suits home.
My ass can be saved for another night. Yes. Back to you.
All right. So anyway, let's get back into the show proper. Okay, topic number 1. Now, as we all know, Warhammer decided that they decided to take the knee to their new Supreme Lords and Masters, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, and decided to go woke and decided to insult their audience. Now, the fact that Games Workshop had basically given the television and probably movie rights to Amazon, I am thinking that this is not a coincidence that they started doing this. Now, I'm not going to get, because the lore for Warhammer is even started up probably about a decade before the lore for Star Wars started up. So the lore for Warhammer is deeper, more complicated, and a hell of a lot darker than anything they've got in Star Wars. And it hasn't had a Kathleen Kennedy come in. And it hasn't had Disney come in and ruin it, although Amazon did a hell of a job fucking up Lord of the Rings. So, we remain hopeful here. But one of the first things they did is that they tried to shoehorn in the Adeptus Custodes. Now, I'm not going to female Adeptus Custodes. Adeptus Custodes, if you know anything about the lore about how Adeptus Custodes are created, their process of creation is even more extensive and more complicated than that of the Space Marines. And the creation of Space Marines, a lot of the recruits for Space Marines wash out. It's extremely rare that the aspirates, which are taken, by the way, and genetically manipulated at birth and not just as early teenage boys like they do with the Space Marines, means that there's a much more complicated process. Now, they tried to sneak this in. They insulted the crowd, and of course, right, they've got the usual they got the usual rainbow mafia people and feminists and all of these the ones. And this is a new term that has come up because of Warhammer. The incredibly intelligent, intellectually superior being that walks into a Warhammer site and starts insulting everybody and calling them man children and doing everything except, of course, actually addressing the facts. And we've encountered them before, but somebody in the Warhammer in the Warhammer realm actually came up with this meme, which is actually pretty good. When one of these guys, because we're usually talking about here are the university educated woke college guys or people who work white collar jobs, and they have this smug intellectual attitude about them. And they come in and they throw these insults around, but they don't actually answer anything, or they basically do the same thing that you see all SJWs do, except they glaze it over with a veneer of intellectualism. And what they've been calling these people on the Warhammer board are the incredibly intelligent, being a derogatory term for somebody who gets really, really smug and condescending in their answers, but doesn't actually answer the question. Because, as we all know, incredibly intelligent people answer questions by being snarky and condescending and use ad hominem without actually addressing the facts. And because they're so incredibly intelligent, they're automatically right. So this is what happens when you mess with the Warhammer community. Now, as we all know, Henry Cavill had a deal, was setting up as to be the executive producer for the Warhammer universe. He was going to play Inquisitor Eisenhorn. Rearson has no idea who the hell that is. That's okay. But I mean, for
no fucking clue and no fucks to give. But continue, please.
I will say this, based upon what I know about Warhammer War, Inquisitor Eisenhorn would be the perfect character for Henry Cavill to play, and he would be the perfect person to build a series, or at least to introduce people to the Warhammer lore, because it's not super sophisticated like it would be if you used the Space Marines. And, you wouldn't have orcs, you wouldn't have armies of orcs and Tau and war machines wandering around all over the place. And you could do a really good character-driven piece with Inquisitor Eisenhorn. And, if everything was going along. But of course, Henry Cavill is a real stickler for lore, as we covered from time to time on The Witcher. And Henry Cavill this is speculation on my part, but Henry Cavill is almost, like, I'm going to say 99.99% aware of what was going on when Warhammer did this. And if I was Henry Cavill, I would be going, okay, you're doing this and you're insulting the majority of your fan base. And by the way, it is the majority of the fan base that's pissed off about this. And it's not just because they hate women. It's the lazy way they brought female custodians in. There was a way they could have brought them in without creating this type of an uproar, but they chose not to do that. But Henry Cavill is like looking at this, and I'm guessing what he's seeing is, okay, they did this with one faction of the Warhammer universe. Who's to say that the woke idiots that are now kissing the feet of their BlackRock masters aren't going to come in, because this is an Amazon production, by the way, and start tampering with the lore of Eisenhorn. Now, there are a lot of issues around Warhammer. Slaanesh, in particular, is going to be a very, very difficult navigation if Warhammer is going to go mainstream. Khorne is also going to be all four of the Chaos Gods, but in particular Slaanesh and Khorne are going to be very difficult things to try to deal with if they're going to go mainstream. Slaanesh, because there is sexual deviancy, which includes pedophilia in it, and Khorne is just outright murder and kill and shitting of blood.
Pedophilia. So Hollywood would be all in on that. Just saying.
Yeah, they would be in on that, but here's the thing: it's sexual depravity ramped up to like 11 with Slaanesh. It's they would have a very hard time trying to make that mainstream. But anyway, Henry Cavill is seeing this, and he's like going, gee, man, I don't know if I trust you guys. And he's making noise about leaving the production deal with Games Workshop over this. And this is right around the time when, again, right, the fact that they got this deal and they were going to be pushing forward, they're in pre-production on this. I don't think it's a coincidence that the big three have suddenly started tampering with the lore on Games Workshop. Now, I've heard indications that it's sort of like, well, you don't want to become too popular, because if you become too popular, then people who are not hardcore fans of the genre will come in and they will make changes. Like, we'll consider what happened with Dungeons and Dragons. Half-orcs and half-elves have been eliminated as character races. They're going to have one hell of a time if they ever want to shoot a Dragonlance movie trying to justify Tannis half-elven. Just saying, right? So, yeah, Henry Cavill is very particular about the lore. He's very protective of his characters, which is actually a good thing when you're talking about an actor. Actors generally get involved with their characters, especially if they're method actors. They will get into their characters quite deeply. And, you know, there is going to have to be, because, and Grierson's not into Warhammer the way I am, into the lore of Warhammer the way I am. There are definitely things in Warhammer that are going to be rather hard to swallow for a mainstream audience. The fact that there are like almost no good guys in Warhammer is one. The fact that some of the chaos gods, and oh, by the way, there's actually a fifth one that they're probably not going to be able to bring in, who's one of the anti-chaos gods. There's a lot of stuff, if they handle it properly, though. If they do the lore properly, Warhammer 40K in particular can probably be the dominant movie and television franchise for the remainder of the 20s into the 30s. I mean, they've got enough lore in Warhammer that they could keep making movies and television series in perpetuity with it, if they handle it properly. Given the very nature of Warhammer, though, that is going to be, there's going to be some changes that are coming. But, again, right, if they, and this is something that they could have done with Star Wars too, if they had to, for instance, right, if they had actually taken some time and not hired a bunch of woke idiots to write the three Star Wars, the next three Star Wars trilogies, and actually take, I still think some people are kind of got mixed feelings on the Thrawn trilogy, but if they had just simply gone with the Thrawn trilogy, problem would have been solved. But nope, Kathleen Kennedy had to inject girl power and herself into that universe. And now I don't know. It's been like, 4 or 5 years since there's been a Star Wars movie? Quite a while. There's been Star Wars TV series, which they keep also screwing up, by the way. But, Warhammer is a different beast. For those of you who don't know what Warhammer is, okay, a rough parallel for the Imperium of Man is the actual Empire in Star Wars, except more xenophobic, and actually, strangely enough, the web or the Chaos Realm is actually the functioning equivalent to the Force, although it's not the Force, and it has much more utility than the Force does in the Star Wars universe. But yeah, the Empire are a bunch of human supremacist, religious fanatics driven to rid the galaxy of all other xeno races in the name of humanity. And by the way, they're the good guys. The bad guys, I don't even want to I'm really hard pressed to think of any. Right off the top of my head, I can't really think of any cinematic characters in sci-fi except maybe trying to remember, it's a movie that came out in 2003. Event Horizon was close. The Alien series, like the first two, I mean, were also kind of similar to it, but not in the same kind of way. Yeah, it's a different universe. So yeah, Henry Cavill has definitely gotten wind of what's going on, and he's being very possessive of his personal project in there. And again, if the Warhammer 40K universe is properly handled, they can be the dominant television and movie series for the next couple of decades. However, that being said, they got to make sure that BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, and all the fucking wokesters in the film industry. And I had an incident I was talking to Rearson about with people in the film industry in my local area just yesterday. You know, there's a huge potential for stuff to go wrong. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Rearson.
Again, this really shouldn't be all that surprising to anybody out here not exclusively listen to us, although that'd be great, but, you know, just with the world at large. It's my opinion is that it's only appropriate to be labeling BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street and their little helpers. JP Morgan doesn't seem to be doing all that much, at least nothing in terms of being all that vocally active. But I don't, pure speculation on my part, I could be wrong, I don't know. But I don't think that JP Morgan either cares all that much or they don't care so long as there's a profit to be made. Now, they could be in cahoots with the trifecta, which again, I think is probably the best word to describe all three very quickly rather than to list them all off, but to each their own. If Cavill bails, then as far as I'm concerned, not only is it a no-go, but he obviously grew up with The Witcher. He's probably been he's probably played.
Oh, he has played Warhammer 40K, and you'll like it. You want to know the faction he plays? Because he was actually the Adeptus Custodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he knows what the fuck's going on.
He knows exactly what the fuck is going on.
Okay. I'm sorry, but if a big enough named actor who is passionate about...
Oops, sorry.
Okay.
Continue.
If not necessarily a household name actor, but one who basically has said, yep, I've played this, I've read this book, these series of books, someone who grew up with these things that were important for him culturally speaking. And he's kind of going, you fuck around, I'm gone. And he could very well end all of this right off the bat. And I can guarantee you that if he basically says, yeah, you guys might want to think twice about maybe buying stuff until they smarten up. That would be a career killer. But if he's been smart with his income, he can go on to other things. He can do other things. He can retire for a while and then maybe come back. Or maybe, just maybe, he might have enough pull to be not just a producer or an executive producer, but could also get enough other people that would be behind him to do or to push through something that would do this. That would require Amazon to play nice, which they probably won't. But if he was to say, hey, boycott these fuckers, that would be, folks, what the hell was she? She was the chief financial officer? Yeah, the CFO of Games Workshop has stepped down. This woman has been working for them for the last 27 years or so. And I'm pretty sure she knows that she's got a good, her ear is, she's got an ear to the road or whatever the saying is, or the railway or whatever the case may be. And she knows what's going on. And she has stepped away. Now, she'll be still doing what she's doing for until the end of the year. But if your 27-year veteran employee, chief financial officer is basically saying, I'm getting the fuck out. What Cavill is basically screaming about is going to be the least of their concerns. Now, as Naruki has said, I don't know jack from shit with the I know very little when it comes to the whole Warhammer lore. I get it. And yeah, in another life, in another mindset, I probably would have gotten heavily into it. I mean, I don't remember what the one tank is, but you might want to mute yourself. The various factions are interesting.
The Lehman Russ tank, but continue.
And one strategic simulator basically put 100, was it like 1,000 or 10,000 clone troopers from Star Wars against 100 or maybe 10, I can't remember, Space Marines. The clone troopers got...
Oh, I love watching those things.
Yeah. The clone...
Yeah.
Yeah.
The battle simulators?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the clone troopers got just destroyed. Killed. Done. Not to say that the Space Marines all survived. They didn't. It was not 100% survival rate. But it was like Marty the Angry Marine sent me that kind of going, oh, come on. I want to see the clone troopers win. I'm kind of going, no, they're not going to do it. They're just not going to.
No, Vader would have a problem with just a regular space. And there's been some speculation that Vader wouldn't have an issue going up against, say, one of the Primarchs, and it's like, he'd have a hell of a time fighting even just a single Space Marine, much less fighting.
There's an actual video. There's an actual video on YouTube, Darth Vader versus a Space Marine.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's a good fight. Yeah, Vader barely won.
Well, I think it's kind of underplayed a little bit because Vader does have the Force, and he does have abilities that aren't seen in the movies. But I think it would be a good fight with him against like a librarian Space Marine.
Or he'd have a hell of a time against one of the Primarchs. That's for damn sure.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So continue, Burson.
Well, I was going to say, one, I'd like to see Vader actually be Anakin without having been burned to a living crisp, because the suit that Vader wore inhibited his abilities. So he's working with a handicap, and domestic matters are requiring my attention. So V, I'm going to pass it over to you and introduce yourself and give your 2 cents, and I'll be back whenever.
Yes, of course. I am the host of the Red Pill Hardcore Radio Show and documentarian. Also, I guess you could say businessman, uh, promoter of TLBTalk.com. Even though our network is down for the moment, we're making some upgrades that just it can't be up. It's going to be a complete overhaul. We'll have features that are going to drive people crazy. We're going to get business going. That's my part of it. Everybody else is concerned with the social part of it. My part of it is the business part of it, because it has to make enough money to support itself, right? So definitely always doing my business endeavors. I wanted to pop in on the show and make sure people know that I'm still alive, document my existence for one of these scumbag feds trying to take me out. Anyways, what is the topic?
The topic is Henry Cavill's considering walking out of the production deal with Games Workshop.
Why? Because they won't let him be the emperor?
Well, here's the thing. You want to know the kid. You want to know the faction that that Henry Cavill plays in Warhammer.
No.
The Adeptus Astartes, which is the Adeptus Custodes, the Custodes, and the Custodes. Yeah, unless you've been living under a rock, Games Workshop basically fucked up with the lore and insulted their audience by bringing in female Adeptus Custodes and just basically saying that they were always a thing, right? Yeah.
Okay. This is a game about warfare. Okay. And we know, men were built for war. Okay. A man is a man because he protects the woman. Okay. The woman protects the children. It goes in that order. We're built to take damage. We're built to deal damage. So the whole point of the Adeptus Custodes is to make an invincible warrior. Now, if you're going to make an invincible warrior, you're going to start off with the best stock you can get. There's no female that fits that build. Cannot fit that build. There's prerequisites. They don't make it. Not to say there aren't female warriors in the canon lore. You have the Battle Sisters. Hey, they're great. They're actually one of my favorite factions. I like the Battle Sisters. The simple fact that they introduced in the lore that their faith has powers equal to that of psychic powers.
Oh, that would be the Adeptus Sororitas. Yeah, the Adeptus Sororitas. Yeah, they're ass. Yeah, the Sisters of Battle. Yeah, they're ass kickers.
Yeah, they absolutely kick ass. They have armored suits, not quite like the Space Marines, but light armored suits with servos in them to give them superhuman strength. They can wield a bolt gun just like any other Space Marine. So, but to say that they're female Custodes, no. Because first off, the Custodes, the Golden Boys, they're genetically altered. They were genetically altered by
from infancy, not from adolescence, like
not from adolescence.
Space Marines.
Pick that infancy, and I'm not quite sure if any of the Emperor's genetics are put in there or not, but they're engineered.
Oh, there is. They're directly engineered from the Emperor. Yeah, they're about as far above a Space Marine as the Space Marine is above a human. That's what I was told. Yeah,
you're not going to. A female doesn't have the genetic code for warfare. That you don't. And if you put it in them, well, they cease to be women. I couldn't tell a difference between them and another man. So if they're not going to make sense, they might as well not do it. They might as well just forget the whole project. Yeah, I definitely understand Cavill and his disdain for this idea.
Yeah, well, Cavill's playing Inquisitor Eisenhorn, which I thought was a very good first selection on his part, as opposed to saying playing a grand epic like the Horus Heresy or the Cadian Gate, which are probably more akin to being movies than TV series.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, it was a very good selection on the part of Henry Cavill to play Inquisitor Eisenhorn, right? At least that's what I'm told he's going to be playing.
I'm going to be infuriated if he's the Emperor. But yeah, that is
Johnny Depp. I want Johnny Depp as Conrad Kurz, absolutely. But continue on.
That's a good choice right there. Yeah, I feel that. Well, the thing about being Eisenhorn, and see, he's kind of one of my favorite characters because he teeters on the edge of that lore that may or may not be canon with the Star Children. I want to see that explored. I want that to be canon. Where supposedly the Emperor had other children. You know that lore?
Yes, I've heard it. I'm not super familiar with that particular version of it. I don't spend all my time watching Warhammer 40K lore videos, although there's a ton of them on YouTube.
Oh, I used to read it. I was on the lexicon.com since I had a computer. Yeah, I love it.
Oh God, there's a huge ton of lore. I could literally spend, if I took a week off, I could literally spend the whole week just watching Warhammer 40K lore videos and get pretty immersed in them. My personal favorite is Luton 9, because Luton 9 is familiar enough with the lore of Warhammer, and Luton 9's basis for the Custodes is just like, look, it's just not. I'm probably the person that's most, he didn't say he's the most familiar, but he's the person that seems to be most familiar with all of the lore. Mm-hmm. And it's like he said, there's one obscure reference in one book that suggests that maybe there were female Custodes, but it's just not in there. Like, it's just not, like, they haven't written it in. So it was like they could have, and his basis was, there were other ways they could have brought it in, and they chose not to do it that way. And because they chose not to do it that way, they pissed off the audience. Because Luton's pretty balanced in his thing. He's not pissed off about this, but it's sort of like, and if they continue to do this with other, like if they try to bring in female space marines, for instance, right? Like, like the Warhammer universe probably can only survive so. And he did point out and this is something that I pointed out too, with Rearson when he was on, like, for instance, some of the Chaos Gods, like there's going to be a problem with them, like Slaanesh. Like, I don't know how they're going to introduce Slaanesh to the public, but it's Slaanesh and Khorne are going to be, if you want me to quote SJWs, problematic, to say the least.
Bring in Slaanesh with looking like James Gunn. That's all I'm going to say.
Actually,
if they do bring in Slaanesh, it better be female.
Oh, I'm picking up. I'm actually looking up. There's a perfect woman.
Make Slaanesh a high school or elementary teacher.
Oh, there's this one. She's in the adult industry. Hold on a second. There's this one porn performer. She's in the adult industry, but she's really good at making costumes up for herself and everything. And she would be a perfect Slaanesh. Unfortunately, they wouldn't accept her because she's
can't be any worse than most of the actresses that are out there right now. in terms of actual acting.
They wouldn't accept her because she's a quote unquote porn actress, but I mean she would be a perfect selection for Slanesh, mostly because she's a bit of a makeup artist and she has actually dressed herself up as an elf.
Make her look like Chrissy Teigen.
Trust, she looks nothing like Chrissy Teigen. She looks nothing like Chrissy Teigen.
Incorporated because she likes little girls. Anyway.
Well, I don't think Slanesh has to be problematic.
Allegedly.
I mean, Slanesh is. I know people think, hard drugs and sex with Slanesh, but really she represents excess. So just ecstasy, titillation, or extreme pain.
Okay, here she is. Yeah, this is a very tasteful photo of her. I'll try to find her as an elf because she's actually got photos of her as an elf. If she's even got the height, she's like 4'11", right? But she's got the perfect elven features. She's got the perfect features to be an Eldari.
Well, something that's funny. I don't know if you guys know about Berserk.
I've heard of it, but I don't know exactly what.
So, in this anime and manga, it has 4 evil deities, and one of them is a female who is very sensual and represents sexuality, pleasure, excess, and her name is Slan. Wait till Games Workshop finds out about that.
Oh, they probably already know. They probably already know.
Well, anyway, if they want to introduce female characters into Warhammer, I like to see some female orcs.
That would be a little bit difficult because orcs are spores that are grown from the ground. Yeah.
Yeah. You could throw in Lizzo.
Lizzo would make for a great Slanesh demon.
Oh yeah.
Nasty. Oh. Wow.
Hey, back up off my homegirl. That girl's beautiful.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, in your opinion, she's beautiful.
Yeah, if you don't mind seen her pounds.
If beautiful consisted of requiring me to drink 6 bottles of vodka before I would even consider going there, then absolutely she's beautiful.
Oh, listen. If she was in front of either one of you, twerking on your lap, you're whole. You'd be harder than you've ever been in your life.
Oh, no. I'd be nauseated and clawing my eyes out.
Denial. Little worlds of denial.
Okay, just because you would doesn't mean we would.
Denial. I say D is in denial.
I've been missing you, man. I really have. Fuck. Not her, but you know what I mean. Oh, good God! I got more.
Anyway, I found. Unfortunately, I can't upload. I can't go into adult sites here, but I did find another interesting pic of her in cosplay, which unfortunately won't come up because it's not the right format.
Are you connected by Wi-Fi or by data?
I'm connected by Wi-Fi.
Well, if you switch over to your data, you should be able to get to those porn sites without any problem. Just saying. Not like I don't know, having been in the hospital, and they wouldn't let you do that kind of crap. Anyway,
you know what? We've talked about this particular issue for a while now, so let's move on to the next one. Anyway, not surprised Henry Cavill's reconsidering, but let's get into the Nashville Shooter here. All right, so let's move on to the next topic here. Okay, so as we all know, there was by the way, this didn't make the news, and I didn't decide not to report on this, but they caught another transgender guy who was going to attempt to shoot up his school. I believe it was in North Carolina, and his direct inspiration was the Nashville Shooter. Now, as we all know, the Nashville Shooter wrote up a manifesto, and all sorts of vested political interests are fighting. Apparently, even some of the parents of the victims are fighting tooth and well. One of the issues that's come up, and one of the things that the police and the FBI keep saying, is that the Nashville Shooter's contents went to the parents' families, and the parents' families are apparently fighting tooth and nail to release it. The only thing that makes sense as to why they would do that, if they're trying to make money off of it, which is not out of the realm of possibility here, but they are really resisting very, very hard to avoid having this. And it's not just the parents of the victims; it's the FBI, it's the Nashville police. It's like unless a group of people go in and really make a concerted political, like they would have to get they'd have to get somebody like, say, Steve Crowder's personal lawyer, who's also the Quartering's lawyer, by the way, and they would have to put a invested team backed up with political force behind them to get them to cough up this manifesto. Now, I don't know. Of course, there was one Nashville police officer who released part of it, and it became very clear, based upon the released pages, that this woman was engaged in anti-white racism and white privilege, and she specifically went to that school to target white kids. However, that was only 3 pages of it. There was a whole bunch of other stuff, and it's going to require, and somebody is going to eventually do it. It's going to require a concerted effort and probably a fairly large amount of money to get the Nashville Shooter Manifesto to go public. That's not happening. They won't even, the people, the lawyers on the other side that are fighting to keep this manifesto private, won't even mention what it is inside the manifesto that is preventing them from doing it. So it's like not only are they resisting doing it, but they're resisting mentioning anything in there that would necessitate that level of privacy over this. Now, you usually only see this on high-level government documents, on private political interplay between various government factions, right? You don't see them making this kind of an effort to hide this type of thing as just as a matter of course. And the whole thing, there's obviously some stuff in there that they don't want revealed, and it could be anything, but I mean, it's very, very clear that there's just a lot of resistance, and there's a lot of speculation as to why there is a lot of resistance. But as to what it is, I don't know. But I mean, there's just been a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to turn it over to V here.
Yes. Well, okay, so as a target individual, myself, I can speculate and take a shot here and show a little light on one of the possibilities of the situation. As a target individual myself, someone who's targeted by the NSA to become what they call an on-shelf shooter. I got put into the program. It's a coercion thing, an annoyance thing, harassment, and it's constant. And it's designed in a way to get you to break. Now, when you break, you go and shoot and kill people, which helps the gun control agenda. Okay. The thing about it is, if there was information in that manifesto about her being targeted, they absolutely do not want to release that at all. I know at this point, if I were to go shoot her, better believe the FBI is going to scramble to get every piece of media that I've ever done off of the internet. Better believe that. My documentaries, my radio shows, everything, they will scramble. They don't want anybody to know this kind of stuff. Yeah. So, and I will speculate on another possibility, because she did shoot up. It was a religious-based school, right?
It was, yeah.
I think she may have been molested by somebody, and of course, the government and church have a special relationship, and they will protect each other. So that just may be the issue. If it's either one of those, we're not going to hear about it. So with that, I'll pass it on.
What the kind of thought, an actual thought, not that whole there about all of this. Jeez, what the fuck was that? MK Ultra. Oh, yeah. A long enough time ago, recently enough, I don't know how you want to think of it, when Corey Haim, you might remember him from The Lost Boys, where he was the good boy, and Corey Feldman and the other guy were the Ghostbusters, shall we say, with the vampires. We had Kiefer Sutherland as the main villain, but yeah, anyway. Haim, I believe, had said Feldman had asked or had mentioned to Haim's parents, why would you let your son be used and abused? And he was going on the record to basically say Hollywood's biggest problem is pedophilia. Why would you do that to your son? They really never gave any sort of answer. Just as I'm sure that Britney Spears' parents, the conservatorship or whatever the hell it was,
Conservatorship, yeah.
Yeah. Where she's basically been used and abused by her parents and the people in that entire freaking industry. I have no idea anything about Haim's parents, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if they knew what was going to happen to him and they were going to profit at his torturous expense, shall we say. Why do I say that? What if, as a possibility, folks, that all of this is a one massive big setup. What if this person was programmed to switch over, could very well have been used and abused, passed around, and what are the possibility, maybe, I don't know, that enough of the parents that are kicking up a stink on all of this might also be involved in it. I have no clue. I don't know. Believe me, if I was fishing anymore, it actually would actually have a fishing line, and the fly fishing that you would see when the movie River Runs Through It or something like that. I don't remember what the movie is, but anyway. What if there's a whole lot, and I do mean a whole lot, of compliance, interdepartmental, governmental institutions that are involved with all of this? What if there's a strong enough connection with, maybe, I don't know, pure speculation on my part, so take this however you will. The Nashville police. Could be someone high enough up within the police department, or you got enough of the rank and file that are involved with all of this. Could that extend into maybe the mayor's office, city council? Where? Where does this corruption go? Now, I will fully admit, I am not motivated to find out. I certainly don't care to look into it. And if anybody does, you do that at your own expense. At your own peril. Sorry, at your own peril.
I'm actually working on a documentary right now. Talking about the pedophile elite, and it goes from CPS worker all the way up to the president. It's the government. Pedophilia is a problem, not just Hollywood, but the government in itself.
I won't be the least bit surprised if within your documentary that it goes all the way up at the time, leads into Bill and Hillary Clinton. Because I think that's where that whole thing started, or at the very least, no, not the Clintons, although they would be implicated in it. It would have been Barack Obama, Mr. Renegade himself.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I could be wrong, but that's more or less what I've come to understand. So, am I saying that they are? Not necessarily. But would I be surprised if there was some sort of revelation of a hierarchy of where things just keep going up and up and up and up and up within government, law enforcement, whatever the case may be? No, it wouldn't surprise me at all. So, who's in it for the money? I don't know. Who's in it to cover their ass? I don't know. Excuse me. And I don't care to know. What I want to know is what the fuck happened, how it happened, and how deep does the rot go. So, in terms of all of this, like I said, honestly, I forget what the whole thing was all about. And I don't need to revisit the whole freaking thing because somebody somewhere and enough somebodies somewhere are deeply involved in it, and they don't want their I'm sure the NSA have all of the shit on all of this. So this is maybe this is all out there for the public to be woken up to. I don't know.
If you remember, I think it was about a decade ago, the NSA, well, it was the Pentagon, actually, that was caught with a crap load of child porn. Over 1,500 soldiers
So
and intelligence agents had child porn on their computers,
that
and
would
nothing
be
ever came of that, by the
that would
way.
be fine. That would be fine if they're out there investigating, going after them, actually killing them. Oh, sorry, that's my preference.
No, they don't do that at the beginning of. No.
No, no. One of the biggest problems I've heard about the Pentagon is the amount of bloat of people that are not that don't have any military background that have been hired on. So, that
Yeah,
sadly
that's the
doesn't.
intelligence agencies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me. But they're. I'm kind of at the point of view where really it's going to take a lot now to really make me just go, "Oh shit, that's a new one for me," because I'm pretty much there. So, anyway, V, if you've got something that ties into all of this, I'd be curious. I'd be really curious to see what you've got. There's another gentleman on Telegram. He worked with Nick Alessandro. I can't remember his name anyway. Who's gone through all of this kind of crap as well too. He's even actually done a documentary on Trudeau, and not Pierre, but just inflationary. Anyway, that be that as it may. So, for me, at the end of the day, yeah, I don't have any vested interest in it. And again, I forgot all. I've pretty much, I have forgotten pretty much everything all about it. So it's not that I don't care, but I don't care. So take that however you will. If anybody else wants to chime in, by all means, I'm done.
Well, I mean, what my documentary is going to really point out, and I'm a researcher, and I'm a self-proclaimed expert in psychological warfare, and the type of people that I have to deal with, have to get over on, have to suppress, have to do my best to get rid of in our society is the psychopath. Now, the thing about psychopathy is that it's a trait. It is a form of retardation. So, like when you have the European royals and the aristocracy, the monarchs, and all the inbreeding, people only talk about the physical attributes that come about because of the inbreeding, the uh, the malformations, that the all the physical uh, disturbing mutations. Okay, the deformities. Yeah, exactly. So the thing about it is that's.
Sorry to step in here. Like we're talking about like the last of the line of the Habsburgs that shit himself. Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
So you have those deformities. The thing about it is the brain also gets deformed. Okay, they have parts of the brain that don't work like they're supposed to. So it is also a retardation. Now that psychopathy always leads to pedophilia. Why? Because it's underdeveloped. This is what I found in my research. This is my conclusion that I've come to. So you have these pedophiles that act childlike, and because they never grew up, or they have some mental issue to where they're childlike, and that's why they're attracted to children. Well, psychopaths have a similar situation there, and that's why the psychopaths are good at getting high seats of power, but put a child in front of them, oh my God, their mouth waters. So inherently, our governments, our churches, our policing organizations, even the corporations, the people at the top, more likely than not, are not only going to be psychopaths, but pedophiles also. So this is what I'm covering in my documentary. Just a heads up for everybody that's listening. But go ahead.
Well, interesting you would say that, because it makes me wonder. I know this wasn't a big thing for you guys, at least not in the U.S., at least not where, like, the northern states, like Michigan, for example. But the CEO in New York of Tim Hortons, and that is a Canadian institution, by the way, of a donut shop coffee chain. The CEO of Tim Hortons was caught with kiddie porn. So makes me wonder. Like, it really makes me wonder. Oh, and there was no coverage of that up here, by the way, as well, too, just because the brand damage would just be unreal. Makes me wonder.
Yeah, especially because didn't Burger King buy them?
No.
Somebody bought Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons got bought by a consortium out of Brazil, I believe. Now, if they sold it off and Burger King bought it, well, quite possibly. I don't know. We'll have to look into that later. But anyway, we've definitely gone on this one long enough. I don't really have any more to say. So, Naroki, if you want to step in and timestamp and the whole freaking bit, let's move on. When you're ready. If you're ready.
Today, Junior. I think he went off for a tea break.
Where did you get that one from?
What?
Today, Judy.
I don't know. I used to listen to a lot of Loveline.
Okay, no, sorry guys, Skype wouldn't. Hey, hello.
Yeah, we're here.
We hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry, Skype wouldn't. For some strange reason, Skype wouldn't boot up for some weird reason. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So, topic number 3. Okay, this one is very interesting because, what was really, hold on a second. What was really curious about this particular, they finally got around to banning TikTok, and was really particular about this TikTok ban is that they tagged the TikTok ban into tagged it into a $60 billion aid package to the Ukraine.
Oh, I was going to say, for Ukraine? Oh, what a fucking shocker that is. I'm shocked, I tell you.
I'm starting to have a feeling that at some point, probably in the next 10 or 15 years, maybe even in the next decade or so, that they're going to basically say, that's it, no more omnibus bills, right? Like, bills cannot be more than 100 pages long, right? Because this just keeps happening. And keep in mind, right, and this is the opinion of people, was the CCP using TikTok to undermine Western society and potentially to spy? Oh, I don't doubt that for a second. The way Tencent is reacting to this in China, they are pissed. They've basically been told that you either shut TikTok down in 9 months, or you completely sell your interest to an American consortium. Period. That's it. Like, there's no other, like, the CCP is not going to be allowed to have any type of influence in TikTok anymore. And I mean, yeah, okay, I'm kind of glad that that's happening. At the same time, though, right? The way they went about like twice they tried to do the TikTok ban, and they tried to tie it into other bills. Now, the one that gave $90 billion to Ukraine was actually the lesser of the two evils. The first one would have given the Biden administration and by the way, if you don't know, because we're going to be doing it for 374, the Biden administration is openly discussing policies that would have make the stuff that Trudeau is doing seem tempered and mild by comparison when it comes to oil and gas and coal and that sort of thing. They're
Wow.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I
can see Texas and Louisiana and Pennsylvania and other gas exporting or gas reliant economies in the states, individual states, basically saying, "Fuck this."
Well, I mean, yeah, the speculated reason why they're doing that is because they know that Biden is unelectable, right? Even if they pull all the tricks that they pulled last time. The last time I checked, Trump is sitting at about 390 electoral votes. Like, he is going to win, right? But then again, we said that 4 years ago. But except 4 years ago, the polls were clearly in Biden's favor. Even with all of the reading of the polls, this time Trump is still leading. But getting back to this, yes, TikTok needs to be banned. I can proudly say that I have never had a TikTok account. I will never get a TikTok account. Have I had to go over to TikTok to watch videos? Yeah, but I never started an account. The concept, and yes, I mean, I've actually been getting some complaints on a couple of channels, on a couple of video channels, because I mean, the long form Red Pill Nation videos can be a little bit of a grind for some people to watch. So I mean, I do have a bunch of shorter content that I'm probably going to have to make and produce. But that's for another case. At no time did I ever want to compress all my information into like 3 minutes. I am not interested in appealing to the average Zoomer with that short of an attention span. And I think all of us here know why. But yeah, they finally put TikTok on notice. Their initial response is, we're not going to do it. But yeah, this isn't really a choice. But I think Biden has already signed the bill. Again, right? I don't like the fact that they tossed $90 billion in to help the Ukraine. But yeah, TikTok is gone. And I am not in any way going to complain about that fact. Now, if there's a few other... It's... And I can't believe I'm actually saying this. It's actually probably one of the few things that the Biden administration has actually done right. And even then, the way they went about doing it was just bullshit. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah, I've never had a TikTok account either. It has not stopped me from watching some TikTok videos, of course, just same as you. I think it's kind of disgusting, though, how they throw all these agendas into one bill. So for anybody who wants to protest or deny the bill, well, you better hate everything on it. You're going to get something that you like and then a bunch of crap with it. I think that should be... That practice of law right there in itself should be replaced. Should be banned. I suppose that's where some of these software developers get the idea of, oh, you want this program? You have to download and install a bundle just to give you a bunch of crap that you don't want. Sad state of affairs. Yeah, the 90 billion to Ukraine. I mean, if you're one of these Americans who hates Russia because you've been brainwashed into thinking that they're the bad guys, only because CIA, the other intelligence agencies, and the TOD get a blank check anytime Russia sneezes. So these proxy wars, I'm telling you, I know warfare is America's number one money maker, but yeah, I think they're gonna use this proxy war to actually take Russia out. With all the sanctions that are put on Russia, they don't have many resources. I mean, they're running out of resources. They're losing tanks they will never replace. So this war, whether Russia wins or loses, it's costing them more in the end, and they've already lost. They're going to be, they may still have nukes, still be a first world nation, but they're going to be put to the poverty level of a third world nation. And so, paying 90 billion to another country for a proxy war, that's
but Ukraine's pretty much. The Ukraine is pretty much out of people, out of soldiers at this point. Mm-hmm. Like they've used up all their fighting age men. Like they're so bad. They're so hard up for fighting age men in the Ukraine that they were actually putting pressure on other countries to send the Ukrainian men they have in their countries back.
And the U.S. military has already supplied troops themselves, but people there who learned the language, learn Ukrainian, and have them pose as Ukrainian troops. So, I mean, we've been supplying troops, whether anybody knows that or not.
They haven't been supplying official troops. There are Americans that have been fighting there, but not in an official capacity.
Right. But
But the Ukrainians are basically out of fighting age men.
Well, they will get resupplied. I'm pretty sure of that. $90 billion can attract a lot of attention. But anyhow, yes, TikTok. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad it's gone. It only showcased how retarded Americans are, how much of stupid degenerates we are. Yeah, so that definitely needed to go. And that's like one thing the government I think has done right in a very long time. So kudos with them on that. But yeah, if you get one really good thing, you're gonna get one really bad thing. So that's just unfortunate. That's all I really have to say about it.
Pearson.
Yeah, well, considering how And this is as per my cousin who's married to a Chinese woman. TikTok in the first world versus TikTok in China, mainland China, totally different. What they're spouting off, what's being published in China or what's being released are a lot more educational, intellectually stimulating videos. Whereas what's TikTok primarily composed of here? Bunch of fucking Karens who just can't keep their fucking mouth shut.
Oh, and the libs of TikTok too.
Yeah. I mean, there are enough content creators that are actually trying to wake people up through TikTok. But by and large, you've got your modern day whammons, Karens, whatever else. I ain't dating no broke nagger or whatever. You know, not going to Applebee's, not going to this, not going to that. It's got to be $400 for me for a dinner date, and maybe I'll think about another one. You know, all that kind of shit. Well, actually, now that I think about it in that regard, that actually makes a lot of sense. You've got the deep state in one form or another working through, you know, communist China, which at the end of the day, they still answer to the Rothschilds and whoever else. Let's not kid ourselves. I don't care how powerful you are, but as powerful and as rich as a country like China may have as a paper dragon, they don't have the sustaining power of the wealth of the ultra elite. So my speculation is at the end of the day, there's only so much that they can do. And once they've hit that, they are at the whim, just like the American presidents typically are, except for the last real one, in my honest opinion. They are given their marching orders, and they do it to the best of their ability. Now, that being said, with Tencent being very involved with quite a number of companies, it's basically the Chinese equivalent of the trifecta. I don't know. But on a slightly different note, I remember when omnibus bills were... I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I remember when they were weaponized. When were they really introduced in Canadian politics? I think it was in the Chrétien days. Maybe it was going back to Mulroney. I can't fucking remember. But when I started to pay attention to all of this, that's when Stephen Harper was Prime Minister here. And that was before Justine Trudeau was ruining the country. And back in the day, when
Hey, leave her alone.
Okay. All right. You want to talk about another person that probably had their childhood robbed? There's one right there for you. But anyway.
No, just remember, folks, if you see a worthless pile of shit, just remember to go up and apologize to that pile of shit for comparing it to Trudeau. Continue.
And the runnier, the better, to make that apology even more more denigrating. Anyway. When Harper was using omnibus bills to push a lot of shit through, and at the time I was liberal inclined, very liberal inclined. I didn't like Harper at the time. And I just thought to myself, you slimy piece of shit, put through the legislation that's required that you're talking about, put it in as a single bill. Actually, now that I think about it, yeah. I think Chrétien was the first one to go to push through with Canadian politics, omnibus bills. Because if you voted for it, there were enough poison pills that you would have said no to on a case-by-case basis. And if you voted against it, well, this is against immigration, or it's against tax cuts, or, fucking whatever. And I felt then, as I still feel now, that that's fucking dirty pool. But considering how pro-Israeli Stephen Harper is and was, and probably still is, that fucker was given his marching orders as well, too. So, I'm getting tired of this shit. I really am. It's just, it's not that it's infuriating. It's just irritating. Because anybody with half a brain, and unfortunately, that eliminates my honest opinion. Pardon me, you sound elitist, as you were talking about at the beginning of the podcast. But there are a lot of people, and I'm not staying on top of politics because it's just, there's just so much work to go along with it. But this might be one of those few times that all three of us are going to agree that shit's got to stop. So, TikTok, yeah. My question comes down to is who benefits from it. I don't really know. Well, actually, I suppose in this sense, if TikTok is going to be banned or gets sold off to some degree or another, that gives a little more breathing space and room for like Google, YouTube, whatever. And also, I think Facebook as well, too, and their subsidiaries. So, I don't play the social media game. This doesn't affect me. It actually really doesn't affect me at all. And maybe, just maybe, the collective IQ of not just America, but Canada and other first world countries might start to go up a few points because maybe it's going to start to make errands and SJWs and whatever else, the crowd that we normally do like, not make them a little bit more smarter. Although that's going to be a bit of a reach. So that's all I'm going to say, my friends, on that note. I have nothing more to say.
And that's it. Stephen has nothing more to say. All right, so let's move on with the next topic here. All right, so, this one is just absolutely insane. Now, this strangely enough, this is something that V might have a lot more to say on. Poland has decided that it's going to allow NATO to deploy nuclear missiles in its territory. This is a direct violation of a treaty that they had with Russia, and it's very obvious why they're doing it. And it's sort of like, it's also, to me, it's also kind of proof that Biden is clearly not the one calling the shots. Biden is old enough to remember mutually assured destruction. And doing something, and it's very clear why they're doing it. Same thing why they're trying to push this national energy policy in as hard as they can before the election. Because if they need some type of a distraction or some type of way, they definitely will pull anything humanly possible to prevent Trump from winning this year. And if that means starting a war with Russia, so be it. Now, the really weird part is that, and I don't know if the government in Poland changed or something, but Poland used to be in terms of the European Union, they used to be uber nationalistic. They weren't. Poland was actually proud of the fact that they were the only country that really hadn't had to deal with any serious immigration violence because they allowed so few immigrants into its country. Poles have always struck me as being very nationalistic. So I don't know who got paid off in Poland to allow this move. But I mean, if the doomsday clock didn't click a couple notches closer by such a crazy and insane move, I don't know what would. There's only one reason why they would move nuclear missiles into Poland. And, I'm hoping, and maybe this is a vain hope, but I have to hope that the election takes place and that Trump wins and is able to head things up, because strangely enough, Obama did the exact same thing to Vladimir Putin just before Trump took power in 2016. Obama, except he didn't use nuclear weapons, he used actual troops. He sent basically one of the fighting battalions that the United States has, and sent it to Lithuania and plunked it right on the Russian border. Now, Putin didn't take the bait, and the reason why Putin did, and oh, by the way, there are also people in Washington, D.C. that were sending very uncomplimentary and semi-threatening messages to Russia while all this was going on. Now, Putin didn't take the bait. Openly wondering here how much control Putin has this time around. And if Putin somehow loses or is replaced, I mean, is the person that's going to take Putin's place have the same level of restraint? Because, I mean, I'm fairly certain that Putin knows why they're trying to do this, and he's not going to take the bait again because he's Putin, right? And by the way, I'm not Team Putin on this, but I've seen Putin in action enough times to know that he definitely knows the game of politics, which is why he became the leader of Russia in the first place. And he knows what's going on. And by the way, he was also an agent for the KGB during the Cold War, so he knows how the game is played. The question is the person who's going to potentially take his place, are they going to exercise the same level of restraint? Because that is just an absolutely insane mood, and I don't know enough about Poland to comment beyond that. However, we happen to have an individual who I believe used to live in Poland, and he is coming up next. So, V, it's your turn.
I think I'm having some technical difficulties. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, so surprisingly, I don't have a lot to say about this. Well, something that you guys gotta understand. Americans, okay, as an American, you mentioned this Poland, this country being a totally nationalized country, and we've had discussions on this show before about how they treat immigrants. But I mean, you would think, how they don't let anybody dark colored into the country, not as a refugee, anyways. Killing them at the border, stuff like that. You would think they would have an adverse reaction to someone like me, especially as an opposing black man. No, I absolutely loved over there. Why? Simply because I'm an American. You guys don't understand how much they worship Americans over there. Okay? Like, I'm automatically first class citizen. Okay? Uh, the little money I have, I'm easily like upper middle class. Okay? So, I mean, it's especially because of the war. And people there still talk about the Great War. Hell, even a woman, I'm surprised, really, even as a woman, it's the war, the war, the war. And communism, communism, communism. Okay, give it a break already. You were like, what, five communism was here? Stop. But no, I mean, they love everything about America. They want to be America. Well, with the exception of actually working hard at their jobs, because they most certainly do not do that. They haven't actually caught on to the spirit of capitalism yet. A lot of them think that they get a job and they're supposed to just occupy space to get paid, which I absolutely hate. Anyways, before I derail myself, uh, so Poland is America's little crown jewel. We have more American troops stationed in Poland than anywhere else in the world. Okay? So, and all the times, articles were brought to me about how, oh, Trump is coming, and how these politicians are getting so excited. Oh, Trump is coming, Trump is coming. And it's the fanboy ism is amazing. I mean, they think they're in the world spotlight just because the president came up. I can tell you right now, the Polish government is owned by the American government. I can say that with certainty. Okay? American government barks an order to Poland. Guess what? It's going to get done. They have. They're eventually going to give up their autonomy at some point to be probably our closest ally. I'm pretty sure they would like to replace Israel. Okay. I would actually rather have Poland as an ally than Israel, but that's another topic. Yeah, it's a lot of lap riding. So that's why that is. So anyhow, I'll go ahead and pass it on to Nursing.
From what I've been looking at in the past, and I'll admit that I've read the Cole's notes of the short form of what the fuck's going on, but NATO has been playing hard and fast with the rules, to say the least. Around the time of the fuck was that goddamn bastard's name? Yurnishenko? I think that's what it was. He was the guy before that court jester, Zelensky. He was the guy that came to Canada. He was he was a business owner, and he was he was great at selling refined sugar, shall we say, that which is more addictive than cocaine. That's how he came in. And there's the guy that came before him was more pro-Russian, and too many things to find difficult to believe in one form or another. So that being said, NATO was looking at bringing in Ukraine into the fold, but there was a condition. I've said it before, and I'll bring it up again. There's a condition that they cannot be engaged in either a war or a civil war. And while I have admitted to be much more pro-Russian overall, just because Putin's been replaced, in my honest opinion, because he was sentenced in a court back in 2010, and the guy doesn't look the same back then to what he would look like now, if you take into account especially aging. And as been mentioned on this podcast before, Russian justice, there's no real leniency. Like, again, those 4+ individuals that attacked that Moscow satellites neighborhood, the city hall there. One guy had part of his ear cut off and fed to his mouth. He spit it out. They put it back in again. And there was another one that looked like it. That he's alive. He should be thankful that he's alive, because he's probably going to get shot at some point. I don't know. But given the constant buildup of arms that has been done around Russia for the last 30+ years, for NATO to pull this crap, to bring in nukes on Russia's doorstep, I'm honestly not surprised. I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. I'm not surprised. It's been... It's not quite the case of when you know, but rather when you know, you're not surprised. And I guess that's about the only way that I can say it. You want to say something? Go ahead.
No. I have to
Okay.
cough here. Just hold on a second.
Okay. Sorry, I just heard someone speak up. So, given how, in my opinion, how corrupt NATO is not... I guess I can kind of compare it back to Warhammer or Wokehammer or whatever you want to fucking call it. I don't consider NATO to be the good guys. Or at least if they're the good guys, there are factions that could do a lot fucking better than they can't. I mean, NATO was looking at incorporating Japan into it, and they're not in the fucking Atlantic at all. So I suppose that, yeah, actually, that's probably what the best way to say it. There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. And I can't quite put NATO into all of that at the beginning of it all, but they sure as fuck now seem to be permanent. So they're looking and requiring to be justified. I'm pretty sure that NATO could have stopped the underwater pipeline bombings that happened. That's given Germany their current challenges. Yeah, we'll go with that. That's, created the current challenges of energy in Germany, which is Europe's largest, well, soon to be was Europe's largest economy. I mean, fuck. To kind of go into this a little bit, what I saw tonight was that UK Prime Minister who moved up because Boris Johnson stepped down, so he's elected. He was not elected as the Prime Minister. Basically, has gone on the record to basically say, the UK is not going to be getting energy from Russia, but we'll get it from France, who's getting it from Russia. So it's this twisted Orwellian logic, I guess is about the only way to say it. So I want to be surprised, but I sure as fuck am not going to be. So I don't have anything more to say on this one, my friends. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, hold on a second. Oh, come on, not again. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, this is insane. I mean, from the perspective of the people currently in power in the US, there's very obvious why they did this. But, you know, diplomats have to keep doing their job. But I mean, at some point, you know, one of these guys in the West is going to make a move that diplomats are not going to be able to cover. And when that happens, it's going to be game over. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic here because, this is the Manosphere section. This one is going to be, we might be on this one for a while, or we might not be on this one for very long at all. But there was a bunch of Manosphere stuff that got taken, and Lauren Southern is also covered in this. The first thing that occurred is that there's a YouTube content producer by the name of Human. Now, as part of hold on. What the? I don't know what the hell's going on here, but there's a video playing in the background that it won't stop playing, right? There we go. That got rid of it. Okay, so Human is he was recognized as a MGTOW content producer. I never really got into his stuff, although, he was highly recommended. He's from Australia, and he has been around. He came in more or less around between that 2013, 2014 period when there was a bunch of back when the Manosphere was starting to explode, in particular MGTOW was starting to explode. So Human would probably qualify like me in terms of MGTOW. He qualified as a 1%er, and his stuff was greatly appreciated because he talked about living a independent, self-sufficient life. And I'm not overly familiar with him, but I mean, his stuff appealed to the Manosphere, particularly to the MGTOW community. Now, a couple of weeks ago, or not a couple weeks, just a few days ago, Hammerhand pointed out that Human had been married for the last year and a half. Now, there's something that I need to say about MGTOW that not a lot of people just assume. MGTOW is not a female boycott. A lot of MGTOWs do go full monk. A lot of MGTOWs will decide that they never want to marry, never want to have, and some of them will go so far as to exceedingly go to great lengths to limit their limitation in their interaction with females as much as possible. Some other MGTOWs will continue to date women and see women and even have relationships with women. And there have been some very unhinged guys in the MGTOW community. Angry MGTOW was one, Mayor of MGTOW. Angry MGTOW was one, Mayor of MGTOW was another. There have been some guys in the MGTOW community that have been good and there have been bad. Human was generally thought to be fairly consistent. Again, though, I'm not overly familiar with this stuff because I never really got into it. But again, yesterday, or is it 2 days ago? Like at some point in the last 48 hours, Hammerhand posted up a video saying that Human had gotten married. Now, again, right, this is going to happen. And again, I have to say this. This is going to happen to some guys in MGTOW. Some guys in MGTOW, because it's called going your own way, some guys in MGTOW are going to go back to the plantation. That's the thing. It is not my call to make to decide how Human does or does not live his life. He finally made a video here a couple of days ago. Why did I get married? I haven't listened to it. He claims that he's getting a lot of support, but when I go to his YouTube comment section, because I'm looking at it right now, it doesn't look like he's getting a lot of support. Now, my personal point of view on Human is that, okay, it's going to happen. Is Human, and he has to be, because I mean, there's a lot of MGTOWs in the comment section commenting about him, and it's like, there's no way that he does not know what the risks entail in getting married in this current environment. And as such, and while it does happen, I have a strong, like, for instance, Sandman had a couple of relationships in the time that he's been a video content creator. Barbarosa's had a couple. Spetsnaz disappeared for well over one. There's been a few content creators in the MGTOW Manosphere that have just outright disappeared, and a lot of it is suspected to be, and a lot of it is suspected because they ran into a woman, and the woman objected to what happens when it happens. It's sort of like my questions for Human, and I think these are very legit questions that I think Human needs to be asked here. Is, well, Human, it's great that you got married. Did you take the precautions that the Manosphere warns you about repeatedly that you have to take if you're going to get married? Did you get a prenup? Are you smart enough to not commingle your assets? Do you have an escape plan if things go south? Do you have a support group that is not tied into hers? That way, if something goes wrong, you have a place to jet to. Like, have you taken the time and effort and energy to mark off all of the stuff that you would consider your personal territory? Did you do a background check on this woman? And you have the financial resources. Did you do a background check on this woman? Did you take all of the did you get a prenup? Although prenups can be tossed out. Did you take any? Did you do any of those things? Human, did you do any of them? Right? Because if you've been doing this, because you've been doing MGTOW content. Oops. All right, I'm making a little bit too much noise here. If you've been making MGTOW content for as long as you have, you should know all this stuff. That did you take the time to do this? Did you? That's the stuff I got to worry about. Now, the second topic, and I'm going to have to keep it quiet here because I got somebody hammered on the wall next to me here. Lauren Southern did a video response complaining about, well, she was complaining about how women on the right are being treated. Now, let's just get into some of the stuff that Lauren Southern has done over the past few years before I even begin to take her seriously.
You're gonna have sex with any guy they want to.
You're supposed to have sex with him whenever he says.
Women simply just don't care too much about the bitch.
This is the perfect example that you can be dumb as a girl and make it through like, bro.
What? No. What did you say? Fuck the woman, fuck the woman. If your dad cheated on your mom, how would you feel?
I'd applaud him. I'd be like, fuck yeah, you got your money up, man. I think if you're in a serious relationship with a girl, she should not have an Instagram. That's cheating.
Men don't really need a woman.
And divorce, and that's not a real thing.
Even though it might be like physically abusive.
You gotta endure.
I recently decided that women shouldn't vote.
Oh, I might like family more than you, so much I have 5.
I'm doing this for money. It's all about money to me.
Going back, first of all, Lauren Southern got her name and her reputation at Occupy Vancouver when she stood up at the art gallery and held up a sign saying there is no rape culture. And the whole thing about this is that got her, and she came to Edmonton and she did a whole bunch of stuff in the Manosphere, so she knows the issues of the Manosphere, right? And in this video, and Rearson saw it, she claims that she hasn't changed and her stance has been consistent. But let's just go over some of the stuff that she's done. There was the mysterious and still undefined reason why she left Rebel News. It was the way she almost got Gavin McGuinness into trouble because her crew, when she shot the South African documentary, was she potentially put Gavin McGuinness in serious trouble. No, nothing happened, but she potentially got him in serious trouble. Her involvement with Brittany Pettibone, who is now Brittany Sellner, who's married to an ultra-nationalist over in Austria, and her association with that. Like, she claims it's just mom stuff, but who knows, right? Then it was her disappearing for a while, getting pregnant, moving down to Australia, and taking really seriously great pains to hide the ethnicity of her kid. And when that marriage went south, she came back to North America with her son, and from all intents and purposes appeared to be engaged in what amounted to, and this is something I found out via Rodolfo Tomasi, engaged in parental alienation of the father of her kid to this guy. Then there was the association with Destiny. You might remember Destiny because we've talked about him a couple of times. Really slimy, hypocritical YouTuber who was allowing his wife to fuck other guys. That Destiny, there was a situation with Destiny, and then there was the Rollo Tomasi exposing it, and then Lauren attempting to get Rollo Tomasi booted off of YouTube and potentially criminally charged, which didn't work. And then, of course, she allegedly came clean about her domestic situation, but only after some guys in the Manosphere pretty much wrote it up to her that, I mean, if she didn't, that they were going to reveal it themselves. There has also been she also made a claim that she posted up this claim from a guy who used to be MGTOW, saying that she got this really threatening message from this person, from a guy who was MGTOW, without sourcing it. So, long story short, and I am not by any stretch of the imagination a psychologist, and if somebody gets really snarky and says, you have a background in psychology? No, I don't have a background in psychology. I don't. That being said, though, I can read, I can look at Lauren's behavior, and I can see that while she's not a psychopath, she's definitely exceedingly narcissistic. And when she got to the top of the right-wing community, when she was quote-unquote the blonde beauty queen of the right, instead of handling the situation with a little bit of tact and responsibility, she acted completely irresponsibly. She acted arrogantly. She acted as if she could do no wrong. And it has come back to bite her multiple times. And then she has the nerve to go and make this video where she leaves out, and yeah, Rearson's seen the video where she leaves out all of those details and tries to play and tries to lay it on the feet of the Manosphere, and of course leaving out all the details there. And the third one is paternity fraud. And this is good. This is really concerning, because this falls into the same category of that woman back in the 90s who raped this 13-year-old and then forced said 13-year-old to pay child support because she got pregnant from raping him. This is the same sort of thing. This guy just needed some extra money, so he donated some sperm. And the woman got pregnant by this guy's sperm, and instead of realizing that this was supposed to be an anonymous sperm donation, she actually went after the sperm donor, and she is now forcing him to pay 40% of his wages for a kid that he never had sex with this woman. He never had anything to do with this kid. But this woman basically forced financial responsibilities onto him, and when all he did was donate sperm. And of course, you're not seeing anybody outside of the Manosphere talk about this, but this is what's called paternity fraud, right? And this is not the first time that a sperm donor donated sperm so a woman could get pregnant, and the woman has turned around and tried and attempted to go after him for child support. Really bad stuff. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah, I've never heard of this human guy, but I don't know. I'd say congratulations on the new ball and chain. I mean, who knows? Who knows what the situation is? Maybe he found that one woman he didn't, thought existed. But the woman that won't nag, the woman that won't try to take you for all your money.
You mean he found the unicorn? Yeah, that's a possibility too.
It's a possibility. Hey, I mean, who am I to hate? I had a unicorn once. Let's say the government got in the way of that situation. Another reason why I do what I do. But they exist. The unicorns, well, I mean, they're written of in legend. They had to exist at some point in time, right? I know we live in a modern era, but there truly are some women out there that don't want anything except for you. I can actually attest to that. Little lady I have right now, I've got no complaints, really, except for she has her moments when she goes into narcissistic rage. But hey, it's not even about me, it's about the government. So hey, we're cool. So they do exist. And if you found his, I say congratulations. Really don't have any more to say about it.
Well, I'll have to agree with what you said about human being married. And much like V, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. But at the end of the day, it is an individual set of choices that you're going to go through. My son's godfather, he's not going to be a complete big town monk, but he still acknowledges that he has sexual needs. But the woman that he married ended up being a lesbian, which is unfortunate, which is actually rather ironic because when I first met her, well, the last time that they were at our place, I was a full-on liberal and she was conservative leaning, and now she's a purple-haired freak, much like that useless quote general in the Star Wars sequel series. And again, what they say about those, those Amazon frogs that are rather toxic, they have incredibly brilliant colors. So we'll leave that one alone. He's got his reasons. I myself will not say that I'm complete big town monk. I can't quite do it because I love the female body way too much. But and I had this conversation today with a friend. I can't say this. How shall I say this? I'm not in any position right now to replace my spouse. But at the same time as well, I'm not looking to replace her. If anything happens, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. And I don't have the confidence to be the pickup artist. So I'm going to be me, and me is basically saying, you know what, just, you've got other shit to worry about. There's other things in your life that are more important than getting a piece of ass or going for that and plowing out that piece of pussy. Well, it's more than just a piece, but you know what I'm saying. In terms of low and southern, there's enough that she was saying a long enough time ago that's starting to show up now. It's not to say that she's against, shall we say, traditional Muslim men, but Islam does not conform very well to Western standards. And I'm waiting for that number to hit 50%, at which point they're going to rebel and it's going to be a civil war. Like it really will. Assuming that people even fucking care at that point. I don't know. But she's also been quite known to, this was the analogy that I came up with. Let her diddle herself, not necessarily to the point of being horny, but rather, you know, she'll make sure that her twant, whatever, is wet enough. She'll stick her legs up, face the breeze, or just stick her legs up and see which way the wind is blowing best for her to go after. Our previous trifecta of Naoki, Nihilist, and myself Now his dad, nothing positive to say about this woman. He more has called her a grifter. And I can't disagree. Now, for those males that have reformed and are on the right and more traditional, I don't know who the fuck. I don't know who they are. I don't recall her specifically singling them out for me to be able to do any more research. But anything that this woman says, and let's not forget the fact, folks, that she's basically hit 30. Her options are declining or decreasing. She's a fake blonde. She's really, no, I'll be honest, I don't see her having a strong sense of integrity. Her sense of integrity only lasts as far as it's going to be for her to be able to make for her to profit on something.
Oh, her actions consistently display narcissistic behaviors. Continue.
Well, and the fact that she did play up on her attractiveness. I mean, I remember the first time I met him, I'm kind of going, and it came down to like, yep, I would happily fuck that in a minute. Or at the drop of my zipper or my pants or whatever. Now, as I'm getting older, and I will throw Lauren Chen into this equation as well too. Yeah, I'd pump that, I would dump that, and I would run away. I guess the best way that I can explain this, what I'm feeling towards Lauren Southern and females like her, regardless of whatever side of the political aisle that they're on. Yeah, they're attractive, but as much as I would like to be dick thinking, I am starting to I'm having a good sense of stepping back and going, you know what? You don't know this female. If getting to, shall we say, quote, know her would be like a $10,000 hug, and you know what I'm referring to, Neuroke.
Oh, I know exactly who you're referring to.
Yeah. These females that are like Lauren Southern or Chen or whoever else, they are a $10,000 hug. So they have nothing to offer. There's nothing substantial. And at the end of the day, if she is as narcissistic as you are saying, and I'm not saying she's not, she's doing everything she can to remain relevant, which is typical of anyone, in my honest opinion, regardless of what side of the political spectrum you happen to be on at that moment in time, because things can change. I mean, we've talked about this before. DDJ had actually said that, you're sticking, Naroki, you personally are sticking to your guns with your format. Maybe it was V, I can't remember who. But, you were doing the style that you're doing. It may not be very popular, but you were remaining consistent. Much like the Conservative parties, Canadian Conservative Party of Canada, or so, Canadian Conservative Party of Canada, CPC, under Andrew Scheer, they were always testing the winds to see what could make the most difference. So there was no lack of leadership. Here up in Canada, Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the New Democrat Party, he, much like, I'm sure, I have no idea what his sexuality is, but it's starting to feel that it's like his political inclinations. It's rather fluid. It depends on the moment. In other words, whatever is the most opportune at the time. And again, I see Southern as being no different. Given her history of being wishy-washy, she was totally grifting because she could see that there's an audience, a hungry audience, or an attractive woman. She grifted into the Manosphere whole thing, but then she turned around and did what she did, like you said, with child alienation and whatever else to her baby daddy, whoever the fuck, for that poor unfortunate soul.
Yeah, and here's the thing. She knows about this.
Yep, and that's fine. She knew what she was, but at the end of the day, she knew what she was doing. She knew what the tactics are. And she went ahead and did it because she became pretty damn fucking emotional for whatever reason or another. The relationship didn't last. Now, I don't know the whole story of it. I don't really care. But when it comes to her, on a case-by-case basis, I will evaluate what she has to say. And if she can stick to politics, I will give her more of a benefit of the doubt, not because of her attractiveness, but just because she tends to actually, when she can separate herself from her emotions, she typically tends to be spot on, or she's more above the target than otherwise. When she's pulling the fuckery of going against the MGTOW crowd, then it's going to be like, you know what? I'm still going to listen, but I'm going to give you an even more of a critical eye. And then the third topic, can't remember what the fuck that was, but it wasn't on my radar. So I'm just going to.
Oh, well, okay. There was a man who donated sperm anonymously, and he's now being forced to pay child support.
Okay. Yeah, this is not the first time I've heard about that. I heard about one guy that was intimate. He wore protection, threw it in the garbage, and then a housekeeper rummaged. Well, not necessarily rummaged. You've done housekeeping. You know what it's like. You know, a condom shows up, and there still seems to be some fluid in that. Well, he got taken to the cleaners for that as well too, and he had to pay child support for that individual. And he had no sexual contact with that woman. So,
wait, hold on. Don't you have an agreement? Isn't there like an NDA whenever you donate sperm that you remain anonymous?
Well, here's the thing. Hold on. Let me just step in here. A prenup is supposed to protect you in divorce, but prenups get tossed out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if somebody breaks an NDA, you can sue them.
Yeah, there's ways around it. This is something that a lot of people outside of the Manosphere don't know.
Okay, right. That's kind of what I'm thinking. If this woman's coming after him for child support, then he needs to go after the company that gave away the sperm and let them pay him.
I would also be going for custody. To a certain extent too, but no, NDAs don't have the protection that you think they do, just like prenups don't have the protection that you think they do.
All you need is to have an activist judge push it through, and it fucks up the legal system. And I guess that's about the only nice way that I can sum that up. There's kind of a running joke here in Canada that the speed limit posted in Quebec is just a suggestion, and that's more or less how the legal system is turning into. And V, don't get me wrong, I don't disagree with you. In fact, I completely agree with you. But with having DDJ on the podcast as very infrequently as he is, and listen to like the likes of like Terrence Popp and whoever else, not NDAs, but prenups are optional. And if you get a well enough paid lawyer or a law firm that might be better well connected as the defendant on the female side, as the prosecution on the female side, and you get some fucking activist judge, they are going to start to upend everything. Again, if not if, but when the time comes, that I'm wealthy and whatever else, and I might be looking to sell my oats again. I'm going to be looking at, I could see myself doing this again. I'll get myself snipped. Not say anything to the woman that I'm going to be with, or, maybe I will booby trap a condom filled with jism or whatever you want to call it. Fluids, my fluids. And if I get into that whole position again, if I get into that situation, that's what I'm looking for, situation. Like, okay, let's do a paternity test. And I would only let my lawyer know what the hell is going on. And if it leaks out, you're fired, and I'm going to go after you. But, throw the book at the woman that's going to be trying to attempt this sort of thing. Like, yep, I'll be happy to submit my, let's do a DNA test. And, let the results show what's going on. And if it ends up being not my kid, perfect. Now I'm going to sue you into the Stone Age. And since the justice system is blatantly lacking in holding women to account, it would take someone like my hypothetical fantasy, shall we say, to start to fight against the corrupt system that is showing in the courts, and to basically make women think twice about doing this sort of shit. So I may not be victimized as you have been, V, but as Naroki has said, the more successful you become, the more of a target you also end up being. So, gentlemen, wrap it up. And if you do blow your load, make sure you bring with you hand sanitizer, rubbing alcohol. I don't fucking care. Throw some fucking soap into it.
An Orange Man Bad Hand Balm.
Orange Man Bad. Do what you can to sterilize the contents that's in the condom. And if you're going to be smart, fucking flush the goddamn fucking thing, wrap it up in toilet paper, flush it down the toilet, and get rid of it. Don't leave it lingering for an opportunistic fucking housekeeper, or, well, that's what that one gentleman in the hotel room that was in the hotel. And do not expect that donating anonymously is going to happen, because I've heard of this happening at least 2 or 3 times before. So she's fallen on hard times. She'll find a way to drag you in and suck the living shit out of you. Nothing. Lawrence Southern as an example. Like, there should be very little room for doubt about the treachery and deceit that a woman could and will likely go through, could very well likely go through, to get back at you just because you're there and she needs money and she's going to use the court system to do it. So, fuck. And you wonder why that I don't. And you wonder why that part of me is wanting first world countries to fucking collapse because of stupid shit like this. Not to say that men are completely absolved of any responsibilities and whatever else. But in this case, he beats off into a cup, sends it off, he's of good gene stock, and she wants more. Fuck me right. Anyway, that's what I was saying this morning, my friends, gentlemen. Let's move on. And on.
It's okay. Let's move on to the last topic here. Okay, this one is really interesting. As we all know, there are protests all over colleges in support of Gaza. They're completely unhinged, but for whatever reason, the one at Columbia University in New York seems to be almost out of control. Of course, the police didn't do anything right away, and the students got braver and braver and braver, and finally it got to the point where it was causing so much of an uproar that they finally did have to do something about it, and they moved in. They used, pardon the language, fart spray, and all of these rich kids were sent running away. Now, the issue here is that, first of all, like, a bunch of spoiled rich kids obviously don't really know what the hell's going on, don't know what is happening over there. And it's very obvious based on the number of protests going. I mean, I saw a video tonight on Instagram where Alex Stein was confronting students at the University of Texas at Austin, and it wasn't nearly as big as the one in Columbia, but he was getting right in their faces because there were a couple of gay students there, and he was like, "Oh, well, you understand, right, that they don't treat gays very well in the Middle East." And they got really angry and they started assaulting him. And Alex Stein is like 6'5", 6'6", so he started fighting back. And they got so obnoxious with him that Alex Stein finally just had enough of their shit and turned over a couple of their tables right in front of them. That was the University of Texas at Austin. Columbia was way worse. Now, one of the people that is at Columbia University is Ilhan Omar, aka the Squad, aka something happened on September the 11th. Jews that serve in the armed forces serve two masters. Probably the least competent of the squad that sold out. And her daughter, Isra Hirsi, I think we both will agree, absolutely got into Columbia University on the merit of her academic achievement and not because her daughter is a congressman, sitting member of Congress. Sorry. And
no, I wouldn't believe that for a fucking second.
So they scattered these students, and they used spray, and it was basically stink spray, right, to get them. They didn't use pepper spray or anything like that. True to the family lineage that is the Omar clan, Isra Hirsi went to the press and claimed that the police were, quote unquote, using chemical weapons on the students at Columbia University. Because apparently fart spray is supposed to be a chemical weapon. Her story got shot down and crushed almost immediately. By the way, the protest at Columbia University is over. I'm sure there's quite a few students that are quite happy to have it over, because they were actually at the point where some of the classes they were having to do them remotely because the protest was getting in the way. And of course, they also tried to occupy a police station, which also didn't go very well. But they were told repeatedly that they had to move and didn't do it. This is what happens when the political leaders don't back up the actual law enforcement people to do their job. And of course, they tried to drag this out. And Isra Hirsi had her story blown out of the water, and now she's been suspended from Columbia. Now she will probably get into another university, and she will probably just be just fine. But I, for one, am happy that at least at one college, and it's an Ivy League college, by the way, that the rich kids experienced fuck around and find out. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Oh, you would pass it over to me now. Yeah, I mean, hell, the whole police station thing, I find that to be absolutely ridiculous. Listen, we have something called the Constitution. We do, well, as American citizens who are underneath the Constitution, because that's the only authority that you're really supposed to answer to. That's the jurisdiction, right? Citizen rights. The Second Amendment states you have the right to bear arms. And not to quote the whole thing, but I'll paraphrase, you can get rid of your corrupt government with the barrel of a gun. It's in the Constitution. I don't understand these quote-unquote occupiers. You're wasting everybody's time. If you're not going to grab your rifle and your rucksack, go home. Go home. Because now the police are going to be prepared next time. They're going to beef up. They're going to have new toys. They're going to have more steroids. They're going to have more corporate code powers to do what they want with you. Just like an immune system got attacked with the cold. They're going to come back stronger. And what? You're going to come at them with what? There's no in between. People need to understand. There's no in between. Peaceful protest. There's no such. It doesn't do anything. The only thing that makes change is money and bullets. Ain't got either one of those. But you don't have control over one of those. You're wasting the time. I would say voting, but come on. We're all adults here. We know what reality is.
Speak for yourself. I admit
it. Yeah, that's the only thing I want to add to that. So, yeah, go ahead, Rusty.
Ilhan Omar. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the congresswoman that has basically committed immigration fraud by marrying her brother.
I do believe, yeah, that is the one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not going to say anymore. Like, until that matter gets cleared up, until she gets sent back to where she came from, or preferably she's been deemed a threat, both foreign and domestic. I really don't fucking care. I don't. Well, Ilhan Omar's daughter, like, who gives a flying fuck? The woman basically married her brother to come in for both of them to come into the States. How much more of a degenerate could you possibly get propped up to be within the legislative branch of government? And how much could that be a fucking problem for the likely issues, and I'll have to go back to Lawrence Southern on this one, of Islam? My apologies to moderates, but you get painted with the same fucking brush that I would get painted for being Catholic.
Oh, come on. You wouldn't marry another guy to get a tax break?
Sorry?
I said you wouldn't marry another guy to get a tax break?
Oh, fuck. I don't know if you heard this or not, my friend, but here up in Canada, Trudeau, with his budget, has allowed for Muslims to have a Sharia mortgage. So it's capped at 10% interest, capped. And if you don't pay it, oh well, the financial institution has to take the hit. So kind of I'm going to bring this back up, my friend. It's not against you personally, but only because you brought it up. Remember why that Poland has problems with non-whites coming in? That kind of shit is kind of why. It's a mess. There's a lot of issues to go along with it. I'm not saying it's clean cut, but I still maintain my position. And if you want, we can talk about it afterwards offline. But like I said, we're talking about a congresswoman who has committed election. Not election. I wouldn't be surprised if she was involved in that either as well, too. But she has basically committed immigration fraud. And people are jumping to defend her daughter. Maybe it's from her brother. Maybe it's from somebody else. I don't know. I don't care. But as far as I'm concerned, that's one person that should be hanging from the gallows. Don't condone violence, but if she was, I would not be crying a tear at her end of life within the simulation, the matrix, whatever you want to call it that we're in. So that's all I got to say. And folks, once again, the standards that we have at the Red Pill Nation is we have none at all, for the most part. And on that note, I'm done.
Okay, so yeah, it's pushing 12:30. It's actually after 12:30. That is it for tonight, folks. Hopefully we won't have all the technical glitches that we had next Wednesday. So I would kind of like to get done a little bit sooner, but yep, that is it for tonight. Just remember, Patreon as Naroki5. And like, subscribe, donate, and oh yeah, Facebook, Mind, MeWe, Gab, Getter, and for video, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, MGTOW TV, and Brighteon. Thank you very much for listening tonight, and I will see you for 2